Okay, there we go. Welcome to the January 6th, first council meeting of the year. I'll defer to my clerk for roll call, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the January 6th council meeting. I'm Jennifer Connor, Clerk of Ramara Township. I'll begin with roll call of council. Mayor Clark.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Present.
Councillor Snutch.
Present.
Councillor Fisher.
Present.
Councillor Tuyu. Present. Councillor Goff.
Present.
Councillor Bell.
Present.
Thank you.
This meeting is being streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Council of the Township of Ramara, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The chair, CAO, and/or clerk have the discretion and authority to terminate or interrupt the live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now I've called the meeting to order. I notice a slight error. The mayor's comments and the CEO's comments are not on the agenda, but I will take the liberty to share them anyway. I want to welcome everybody back from the holiday season. I hope everybody had a great new year and has a great new year to come. That's what I always wish everybody, that maybe your dreams don't come true, but you have a successful and happy new year. With that, I have some items I want to read from our procedure bylaw, just to remind council, we're going to run stricter meetings now. And as I will point out, we have a new CAO to introduce at some point as well. So under our procedure bylaw and duties of the presiding officer, preserve order and decorum, decide questions of order, subjects of an appeal by any member of council without unnecessary comment. Cite the rule of authority as commonly accepted under parliamentary procedures, application to the case if called upon to do so. And no member shall speak disrespectfully of Her Majesty, His Majesty the King. Almost disrespected the King, didn't I? His Majesty the King, or any of the royal family, or of the Governor General, Lieutenant Governor, or any member of Senate, House of Commons in Canada, Legislation Assembly of Ontario, or another member of council. Not speak until the member has properly addressed the presiding officer or any other members where information is requested or a question is asked. Use offensive words or unparliamentary language. Speak on any subject other than the subject that's up for debate. You should not criticize any decision except for the purpose of moving that question to be reconsidered. We don't disobey the rules of the decision of the presiding officer on questions of order of practice or upon the interpretation of the rules. And we don't disturb other members by any disorder, department disconcerting to any member speaking. So just a little reflection on the rules. And I will remind council now, practice that we actually stopped during COVID because we had so many Zoom meetings. All motions of council are in writing. So any amendments to the motions all have to be provided in advance in writing with a seconder. Now, of course, just reciting the rules today, when we take a break at some point, which we will after our presentations, if there's any motions, which includes requests for reports, it must be in writing with a seconder for that motion. So with that, going over the rules, I want to welcome our new CAO, Gail Jackson, who comes with us with I don't want to say many, a few years of experience. If you look at her record, she certainly started when she was 12, is what I would say. I'll let you share how many years of experience. I'm actually overjoyed, as is the rest of council, really looking forward to you working. You are going to be a fine, fine addition to this family here at Ramara, and we just can't wait to see what you have in store for us. And Gail, welcome.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I actually am really excited to serve the community of Ramara Council and staff. Look forward to working with everyone. So thank you very much for that introduction.
Thank you and welcome. And with that, I would like to take an opportunity to thank Robin Dunn, who's been our acting CAO for 6 months now. I think a little longer than you planned on. We've greatly appreciated your guidance that we've had over that time. You've been just a phenomenal member of this team and family. And I want to thank you very much, sir, for all the help you've given us.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you for that, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity
to continue to serve in municipal government the last 6 months in Ramara Township. And Mr. Mayor, if I could, segueing to some really important news for 2025. Some members of the community, some members of council are aware that there was a change in access to a physician in Aurelia. The good news, I understand, Mr. Mayor, that practitioner has set up shop right next door in the pharmacy next door or on the other side of the street. That is phenomenal.
Oh.
And I would like to say to a longtime colleague that I have been very fortunate throughout my career to work with Gail, not quite as closely, Ms. Jackson, as the next week. But I echo your comments, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Jackson will be awesome from a leadership perspective with her staff team. She'll be great supporting the mayor and members of council, and a tremendous advocate for the community residing in the community. All the best, Gail. And Mr. Mayor, I thank you for the opportunity to serve you, council, and members of the community.
Okay, thank you. With that, any member of council without any function just since our last meeting? I mean, we've all been out at the Christmas functions, the parades and all the different, not seeing any hands. So with that, I will roll into my agenda. And I have an adoption of the agenda and additions dated January 6th. Recommendation that the agenda dated January 6th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by the Deputy Mayor. On the agenda, there is a large in-camera session at the end. We will be actually have to hold it in the council chambers. Normally we go off to the small room for our council chambers. We have too many folks that will be in this council. So I'm just announcing to council that we will break tradition and apologize to the folks when we get to that point of the meeting. We'll have to clear the council chambers because we just have too many people to take in our separate rooms. So that's the only change. With that, do I have a mover in a second? Yes, I did. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Any member of council? Didn't see any when I read it. So if you find yourself in that situation later, please declare it at that time. I have a recommendation that council meeting minutes dated December 9th, 2024 be adopted as presented. A mover for the minutes, Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Snutch. Questions rising from the minutes? Councillor Fisher.
Procedurally, Mayor, because I wasn't here, I don't disagree with what the minutes say, but I wasn't here to say that they accurately reflect. Do I abstain from a vote for these minutes?
I believe not, but I'll defer to the clerk on that matter.
That's
Sometimes
correct.
it's not advisable to move the minutes, but
That's correct, Your Worship. She's permitted to vote.
Thank
yes,
you.
you are permitted to vote. Okay, with that, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Just getting my agenda open on my computer. Next I have, oh boy, been waiting forward to this, presentations and receiving of petitions and deputations. And we have one that I'm very much looking forward to, and it's our Senior of the Year. And that's a very prestigious award that there are very few, and it was presented to Ramara Township and to one of our valued citizens, Steve Hinton, who received our Senior of the Year. Please come on up, Steve. Come right around, Steve. Come right around. I will say, just while you're working your way up, sir, Steve was presented this award because we wanted it to be a surprise. So it was presented to him at his Christmas party at the Athlete Community Center board. It's in recognition of all the hard work that Steve done. He has been just a tireless volunteer for this township. And, you know, when you look at Lovely Day Park and what's been accomplished by both him and the committee has just been outstanding through Steve's leadership. And we can't say enough to appreciate everything Steve has done. And then after giving them the reward, we said, can we have it back now? Because we'd like to present it to you in front of all of council. So. We do that. Yeah. So we'll make the rounds. Yeah, we'll go around. Jen and Dana, I know you're on the committee. Come on up as I present with them. And Joe. Senior of the Year Award 2024 presented to Steve Hinton by the municipality of the Township of Ramara. in recognition of your outstanding contributions to your community after the age of 65. You're barely there, sir. But, and then I also have, I'll present you that first. And then I have a certificate from the township as well. Again, Senior of the Year award, please accept the best wishes and celebrate this milestone. And this is signed by myself. So thank you everyone, Steve. Oh, yes, I should remind everybody, this is a provincial award from the province of Ontario. And there's not, it's not every year that a citizen of Ramara Township gets this prestigious award. And that's what makes it so special. Steve, if you'd like to say a few words, sit down right here, sir. On the microphone. I'm going to cry.
That's okay. We might cry too with you, Steve.
When I received this award for 65 years older, I thought they must have run out of seniors. I am deeply humbled and very, very grateful. The Hinton family has been in Atherley for, as far as I can tell, about 135 years. And in the 5 locations, none of them have been farther away than 300 yards from the Atherley Park. My generation is called the silent generation. And on a world stage, 1%ers, but only 1% of us is alive. Born in 1942, these 1%ers now are 77 to 97 years old. But we are the inheritors of the greatest time in Canadian history. And I think that's what makes us want to volunteer, to want to give back, to be growing up in Atherley in the 1950s was a joy. And so when I retired, after being an educator for 35 years, we raised our 4 daughters in Atherley. And I looked at the park next door and said, we can do better than that. I've been on township council, not here, but in Severn, and municipalities can only do so much. Volunteers are very, very important. And so we started with the premise that if you build it, they will come. And when we would ask for people to join the committee, they'd say, they don't do anything, they don't get anything done. Well, it took us about 8 years to get things rolling. I have a wonderful committee. And I work under the premise that find good people and get out of the way. We couldn't do anything without the support of this magnificent council, because I've always known that they've got my back. And I think they've always known that we are never going to mislead them, never going to lie to them. We're going to tell them what we're seeing and what we're observing. And finally, this piece of property in Atherley is so precious. It's the gateway to the fishing weirs, 5,000 years archaeological proof. It's the gateway of Champlain. It's the gateway of going into the explorers and Halliburton, up into the Halliburtons. It's the meeting point of the Trent Severn system of Lake Simcoe emptying into Lake Couchiching. It had to be protected. We're not finished.
You said that, yeah, Ronnie. Don't fall
Okay.
off.
We're not finished yet. There's a few more things. But people say, how did you do it? We did it with council. We can't do it without them, obviously. And so I'm very humbled with this because it wasn't me. This was all of us. And I'm very grateful. Thank you.
I think, Jen, do you want to say a few words? And any other member of council?
Yeah, I'm just gonna turn on this mic just because it's a bit easier to see if I can give this to you as well. I know Wendy couldn't be here today. As I, but this council wants to celebrate somebody truly remarkable, an individual who embodies the spirit of selflessness, dedication, and community. We nominated this person for the Provincial Senior of the Year Award. It's an honor to recognize Steve Hinton as an outstanding volunteer who has profoundly impacted our community. And me, and you're gonna make me cry. Steve, your unwavering commitment to Ramara has not gone unnoticed. Whether it's finding donors for Lovely Day Park and its amenities, organizing events and cleanups, mentoring youth, or supporting the families in need with your donations to Rooted in Ramara, your efforts have transformed lives and strengthened our bonds as a community. Your passion and drive inspire us all. You remind us that one person can indeed make a difference, and that even the smallest act of kindness can create ripples of change. You've given your time, energy, and heart, and for that we are truly grateful. The hours you have invested and the challenges you have tackled speak to your resilience and compassion. Whether it was facilitating a group of hardworking volunteers or tackling the challenges of policy within the municipality, your ability to bring hope and joy to others is truly extraordinary. On behalf of everyone here and the countless lives you've touched, I want to say thank you. Thank you for showing us what it means to serve, to care, and to believe in a future for all. You've left an indelible mark on our community, and for that, we are forever indebted to you. Congratulations, Steve, for your exceptional contributions. We celebrate not just what you've done, but who you are, a shining example of kindness and humanity in action. Thank you for being the beacon of hope and a true community hero.
I see some of the volunteers here today too. Thank you very much for all the work you put in wording. Very good.
We're gonna do it again next week.
Always like those celebrations, yes. So next, second here. We have the presentation by, I should know this because I watched it at county, the name of your country, Axima? Axima, I apologize, sir. Regarding the Simcoe County's municipal insurance pool, and I will point out, we have a couple county representatives here as well. General Manager Trevor Wilcox is here in the audience, and Leland Civic, our treasurer, is here as well. So whenever you're ready, sir, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I think we have the presentation to put up. Do we? I don't know if it'll be up there.
Yep.
Okay. I just need to learn to be patient, right? Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to present today. It's not very often in insurance you can present something this clear cut as providing value to the constituents. So I'm very excited. This is a title slide. It has a stork on it made out of origami. If we can go to the next slide. So just a quick background for those in the room. The purpose of this came about because there has been some instability in insurance premiums over recent years, and Simcoe County and the participating municipalities explored alternatives to the current insurance model to identify opportunities for improvements in costs and costability. Due diligence to determine the feasibility has already been completed. It was what we call in the insurance industry a slam dunk. There was a strong business case for implementation, and that's now underway. So what we're looking for from each of the councils of the participating municipalities' commitment to join the proposed insurance pool. Next slide. The proposed solution, as I just mentioned, is an insurance pool. It's not brand new. There have been two insurance pools in Ontario formed previously. One was Waterloo Region's insurance pool, and the second one in 2000 was Durham Region's municipal insurance pool. It's now been 25 years, and we're hoping that Simcoe County will be the next to form an insurance pool. You might be wondering, why do we wait a quarter century to make a new one? In large measure, that's because the 25 years in between saw the longest and most protracted soft insurance market where premiums were just progressively going down. And it wasn't till about 2019 that we saw insurance premiums go up quite substantially to the point where they were creating instability for municipalities. So the time is right now for us to create an insurance pool. And I would like to point out that the other pools continued to be successful and deliver value to their members throughout that 25 years. Next slide. So why start an insurance pool? Next slide. First of all, insurance is expensive. Out of the $20.6 million that the constituent municipalities and the county spend on insurance premiums, only about 34% of those dollars is expected to go towards paying losses. About 35% is going to friction costs like operating expenses for the insurer and broker compensation and premium tax. And another 31% is used to provide a risk margin for the insurer, as well as profit for their shareholders. So for this group, there's about a $14.6 million reason to look at restructuring this program. Next slide. So a great analogy for what a pool is, and we really would point out that a pool is all about self-insurance versus insurance. Self-insurance is a bit like making your own meals at home, and insurance is like dining out at restaurants. Next slide. So why do we buy insurance? Just like eating out at restaurants, it's convenient. And we get cost certainty. We look at the menu, we know what it costs, and until we come back again, that's the only price we're going to pay. Next slide. Specialization. Often we go to restaurants when they can do things that we can't. One of the things insurers are great at that I wouldn't necessarily say most self-insurance vehicles are ready to do is something like cyber insurance, where it's a highly specialized thing. So sometimes we go to restaurants for specialty. Next slide. Service is another. If when we pay our insurance premium, we also get access to claims and risk management services embedded in that coverage. So it means that we get to offload some of those services to an insurer, and that's embedded in our premium. Next slide. So why should we buy less insurance? First and foremost, cost. By show of hands in the room, including the audience here, how many people eat every single meal at a restaurant? Seeing none, I will say that's probably because if you did, you wouldn't have any money left to pay for anything else. So yes, insurance costs a premium. Next slide. The other reason why we often don't go out to restaurants for every single meal is because we have in-house capabilities. We have the ability to make great meals at home. For example, I know I can make a mean spaghetti. I'm not going to pay at a restaurant for that when I know that I can get something special for the same cost. So as we bring in-house risk management capacity to an insurance pool, to a group, we'll be able to do more and more things in-house. Next slide. So how do we go about buying less insurance? And first and foremost, reducing and avoiding losses through risk management. I think risk management is being pushed by all municipalities right now as a way to lower costs. But increasing deductibles is another way to do it, self-insurance retentions. And this is really what pools are. They're about increasing the amount of claims that are retained, but we do that by using pools to reduce the volatility. So no single municipality is exposed to the volatility of just their own increased deductibles. So we create that stability. We also create a vehicle for creating central resources to coordinate and deliver that risk management I mentioned before. So we're creating a specialized unit for the county and the municipalities in Simcoe to deliver these services and it will be funded by what used to be insurance premiums. Next slide. Some of the questions we get, one of the key questions we get is, what will the insurance coverage be like under the pool? And the reality is it will be as good or better than whatever the municipalities have now. As you can see in the graphic here, instead of a whole bunch, as it would be 18 separate policies, it's one large policy covering all the municipalities with the best of the best for all the municipalities to share in. So coverage will be as good or better than the expiring, notwithstanding maybe some coverage nuances from carrier to carrier as we figure out which insurer will support us. Next slide. The pool structure works as follows. There's a deductible, just as there is today. Each municipality will continue to carry the deductible, and I'll talk a little bit on the next slide about what that looks like. That will continue to be the case. Above that will be the pooled risk portion. This is why we call it a pool, because that part will be shared amongst the municipalities participating up to $500,000 per claim. Again, this is exactly the same in the Waterloo and Durham pools that have been successful for the last 25 years. And then above that, we'll continue to buy insurance. So we're not saying don't buy insurance. We're just saying buy less insurance and retain more of the money for the municipalities. Next slide. So speaking to deductibles, municipalities will continue to have deductibles like they do today. Could be $5,000 or $10,000 for smaller municipalities, and it could be up to $100,000 for the county, for example. And these will be standardized across the municipalities based on size in order to make sure that all the municipalities get to take advantage of the pooled risk in the same way relative to their size to create fairness. Fairness is absolutely critical to the success of any insurance pool. Next slide. So if we want to take this as an example, if we had, for example, a $2 million property loss in the Township of Ramara, the first $10,000 would likely be borne by the municipality just as it is today, so no change. It would report that claim to the insurance pool, which would then pay the next $490,000 up to the $500,000 retention, and the additional $1.5 million would continue to be covered by an insurer yet to be selected on an excess basis. So we'll still be transferring large losses to insurers. But just to give you a sense, within the entire group, the actuaries have determined that only about 1.1 claims per year are expected to be above $250,000. So we are unlikely to be using insurance all that often. And that means that we're going to be retaining most of the risk in a positive way within the pool. Next slide. So how does this look compared to the status quo? I mentioned earlier on in the slide that as a collective, the 18 municipalities, including the county participating, pay about $20.6 million in insurance premiums. That's the gray bar on the slide you can see right now. The deductibles on an individual municipality level tally up to about $1.8 million. So you're retaining 1.8 and you're giving away $20.6 million to the insurance marketplace, never to be seen again. And we'd like to change that. Next slide. The way we're going to change it is we're going to continue to buy insurance, but we're going to buy less of it by increasing the amount of risk being retained by the municipalities in a controlled and planned manner. So we are going to reduce the amount of premiums from 20.6 to an estimated $7.7 million. That means all of those friction costs, the 35% operating costs, the 34% profit and risk margin for the insurers, are going to shrink by an order of magnitude of roughly 1/3. We're going to be able to cover the losses actuarially comfortably within the $8.4 million in the, I think it looks like yellow from here, yellow bar there. And that is being actuarially covered, plus a provision for risk margin and a contribution to surplus annually at the startup phase. This means there's approximately 19.2% savings over the status quo every single year from now onwards. It's a massive savings for the group. Next slide. Just to simplify this, those two pieces, the yellow bar and the excess insurance piece are going to be combined into what's called an insurance levy. And largely speaking, for the municipality's perspective, it's going to operate just like insurance. Instead of calling the insurer or your broker, you're just going to be calling the pool instead, and they will handle things from there and provide the same services. In fact, possibly even more services than what you're used to now. Next slide. If we break out that premium levy and you want to see inside what was in that yellow bar, about $4.5 million across all the 18 municipalities in the county are the expected losses annually. So we were spending $20 million. Now we're going to spend 14 on levies, or less than 14 on levies, and about $4.5 million is required to cover losses within the 500,000. The actuaries have identified a buffer of 815,000 for risk margin, operating expenses of 1.575. That will be the staff that operates the pool and provides the risk management services, claims management services, all the things you're used to getting from an insurer. And then about $1.5 million on the far end is only required during the startup phase in order to build surplus to ensure that we have more than enough money to cover any of the unforeseen circumstances, increased volume of claims. Sometimes we have bad ice storms. There's more claims during those. We want to make sure we have a sufficient buffer to make sure that we won't run out of funds within the pool. Next slide. So how do we generate savings in this model? Fundamentally, reducing the amount of for-profit commercial insurance and establishing a pool to manage a meaningful portion of the losses on a not-for-profit basis. We're literally moving from for-profit to not-for-profit. Any dollars that go into the pool that don't get spent on providing value to the participants will end up staying right where they are in the pool to be deployed for value for those municipalities in the future. We're going to consolidate the insurance placement services to reduce the insurance brokerage costs. Instead of having 18 independent municipalities going out placing insurance, it'll all be done in one single placement, which is going to lower those placement costs. And we'll get additional claim savings materializing down the road as the pool develops its in-house capabilities for claims management, et cetera. And those weren't even captured in the analysis. So there are even further benefits to be had down the road. Next slide. Planning for stability is critical. We want to make sure that this has an absolute great chance of being a success story. And for that reason, the actuaries have recommended, and the adopted scenario is, instead of providing a 19.2% savings out of the gate, we're only going to provide a 10% savings over the expected premiums, and we're going to retain the additional 9.2 savings to be deployed later as a further savings. So we're going to defer that savings in order to faster build up surplus. This provides a belt and suspenders startup surplus for enhanced stability, a second or third wave of savings expected in years 3 and 5, and smoother year-over-year budgeting to make sure that we have an easier time of budgeting for insurance costs. Next slide. Just to put this graphically, the actuaries have determined an $815,000 risk margin that's already embedded in the levies. During the startup phase, we're going to add $1.5 million annually. Keeping in mind, we're still providing a 10% savings. So all this money is being added with a savings to the municipalities. And then an additional $2.06 million in deferred savings, so that we have a buffer of about $4.4 million in each of the first 2 years. Next slide. Again, looking at this another way graphically, looking at the status quo with the gray bar, which was the old insurance premiums, municipalities, including Ramara, will see a 10% savings over expiring right out of the gate, with a 9.2% savings deferred. By year 3, the actuaries are projecting that we'll be able to remove this $1.5 million surplus contribution, providing an additional 6.7% savings. And then sometime around year 5 or beyond, we're able to adopt that additional 9.2% savings. And so from that point forward, it'll be about a 25.9% savings over what the status quo would have been had we marched along individually buying insurance. So some operational considerations. The planned launch date for the pool is June 1st. We're moving to a June 1st renewal date. First of all, to streamline administration. It means insurance premiums will be known, which will make it easier for most municipalities to do their annual budgeting. Since the Simcoe municipalities largely have various insurance renewal dates, we picked the date that was inconvenient for everybody and picked a June 1st date. The current policies tend to allow for cancellation midterm, sometimes with no penalty at all, or if there's a penalty, it's a short rate penalty, which is offset by the savings within the pool. Joining does require signing on to a subscribers agreement, which will create the pool. And the expectation is that will happen on or about February 14th, but no later than March 1st, so that the municipalities looking to participate can execute their cancellation of their existing policies, some of which have a 90-day provision. There will be an advisory board created for the pool to oversee it, with 1 seat per municipality, irregardless of size, and one vote irregardless of size. So smaller municipalities will have just the same say as the county does, just to put that in perspective. And the advisory board will set the pool levies annually with input from the actuary, and the pool manager who will be hired in to operate to be responsible for operations will also be overseen by the advisory board. The subscribers agreement also lays out the exit and entry conditions, and a draft has been distributed of that document. Next slide. I think this is the last one, and then you don't have to listen to insurance stuff much longer. Not all municipalities are required for launch. We've done some modeling, and it could be launched with less than half, although I think we're getting pretty close to half already confirmed. It's not required that all municipalities join in order for the pool to be feasible, and there are still the same amount of savings at 10%, even with as little as 50%. The accumulated surplus will need to be matched for anybody who wants to join later. So I really want to point out that joining after the first year of the pool's launch will create a burden for anybody who wants to join later. And the reality is, as in the case of Waterloo, has turned down applications for new members over the years. The advisory board may not accept new members once launched. So it's very important to note that this is a great opportunity to get on the train, as it were, as it's leaving the station, as you don't know when the next stop will be. The pool staff that will be hired in once the pool is formed will provide and coordinate all the services the municipalities are accustomed to getting, including risk management services, claims handling. There will be a centralized claims handling software, including appointment of adjusters and defense counsel, organization of the meetings and materials of the advisory board, and coordinating inspections. I say this all to say is not adding any new burden on the municipalities other than appointing somebody to be on the advisory board for possibly 2 or 3 meetings a year. So no additional staffing required in order to move forward with this. And I believe that's the last slide. Oh, this is the last slide, which is specific Township of Ramara savings, and pointing out that over the first 5 years of the pool, the estimated immediate out-of-pocket savings is about $600,000 over the first 5 years, with additional $473,000 of savings being retained in the pool to be deployed later. And you might be asking, what are you going to do with that money? In the case of Waterloo, for example, when cyber insurance became too expensive, they just opted to self-insure using the surplus that they had already accumulated. So there's great opportunities to solve problems for the municipalities with that equity in the pool. It creates stability. And if it gets to be too large, then those funds will be returned to the municipalities by way of annual levy savings.
Looking for questions. I saw Councillor Schnutz making some notes. Go ahead, David.
Thank you. Yeah, sounds great. I have 3 questions, and maybe I was too busy making notes to listen, but can you tell me what your company actually does if it's not insuring, and what your role in that company is?
Axima is an insurance consultancy. We specialize in establishing and creating self-insurance vehicles and assisting them to get started. We have a variety of services to do that. We've been in one form or another creating self-insurance vehicles since 1987. We were responsible for establishing the Waterloo Pool in 1998 and the Durham Pool in 2000. We are presently the actuaries and brokers for the Waterloo Pool, but we are not involved in the Durham Pool at all. So we can provide these services to the pools if they elect to use us. But we are first and foremost consultants to help municipalities, amongst other public entities and associations and groups, create these kinds of vehicles.
So how many other, you've got the three counties or whatever. So how many other groups do you do this buying for? Or like you said, like it could be a franchise organization, or it could be like, how many other groups do you do besides for the
That's a great-
municipality side?
That's a great question. We've done a property insurance pool of sorts, a reciprocal insurance exchange for 7 of the largest airports in Canada. We have created and managed over the years a reciprocal insurance exchange for law societies across the country, not Ontario, Quebec, or BC, but all the other provinces and territories. We're still involved in a consulting capacity. We also provide strategic services to the universities reciprocal, who have just launched their own cyber insurance, self-insurance product. You know what? I haven't really thought about how many we work with, but it's probably in one way or another, 30 or 40.
Okay.
Carry on.
Second question then, a lot of these insurance, they become settlements and people negotiate, and usually it's the insurance company. Who's doing the actual negotiation with the lawyers of the applicant who wants to get an insurance claim from us? Who does that?
Great question. Typically speaking, there's defense counsel appointed to the municipality. It would predominantly be provided, like appointed by the pool, so it would be a lawyer in most cases.
So you hire the lawyer according to the specific claim?
Yes.
Okay, so there's not like, okay. In the last, I've been involved with these before, and they always start off great. And you get all the savings, and then after the first 5 years, the CFOs have people knocking on their door saying, can we take a shot at your insurance? And they say, we're part of a pool. And then obviously there's people who contribute a lot to the pool, and there's a lot of people who are in a deficit because they have too many claims. And that's when it starts to fall apart, and certain people break away because they want to get the savings that maybe their uncle has an insurance company or something. So they break away from the pool. How have you been able to keep those groups together for such a long time? Because my experience is they're short-lived, but you tell me how you've kept them together.
Trying to think. I think there's only one short-lived one, and I don't know if it was particularly short-lived. You're talking about Omex?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. No, the ones that we have been involved in, most of them were created in 1987, 1988, most of them, and they still operate today successfully. And they've been under attack from brokers who would absolutely love to move the business into their own portfolios. But I think most, once you get into a pool scenario, if you operate it and see it as what it is and stop competing with your own insurance company, then what you'll find is that it's providing tremendous value to you year after year. And any offer of a short-term savings is going to be just that, short-term, because what the municipality, I think the recipe for success is communication and transparency. So when all the municipalities are sitting at the advisory board and they all see exactly how the sausages of insurance is made, there's no question about whether value is being delivered, because they can see that the losses being paid and the premiums being charged or the levies being charged are beyond reasonable, and absolutely no way an insurance company with their economics could possibly compete. And I'll give you a very good, for instance, I know for a fact, one of the groups that we work with has been operating historically over 20 years at a 98% loss ratio. That means they have exactly 2% fat. No insurance company in their right mind would operate at that level when the OSFI national statistics say that their average is 65% operating expenses. So they just can't compete. So the only way these fall apart is if you don't acknowledge that you're starting fundamentally your own insurance company and don't allow it to be competed against by those that would just give you a short-term deal to get you to move out of the pool. For that reason, it would be very difficult to re-enter the pool. From a municipality standpoint, municipal pools, reciprocals, and so on are incredibly successful pretty much everywhere else in the country except here. So BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan all have highly successful rural and non-rural reciprocal insurance exchanges. And I don't think any of them are looking to close up shop anytime soon.
Well, thank you for your answers. One last question.
Yeah.
Who owns this company? Is it a public company or?
It won't actually be its own legal entity. It'll be created as an association by the subscribers. So Ramara and the other 17 municipalities will fundamentally be the owner of it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, members of council? I'm not seeing any. Pretty thorough presentation. Thank you very much. And I do have a motion here that we received the presentation from Axima regarding the Simcoe Municipalities Insurance Pool as information. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Tuyu. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I enjoyed the presentation last time. I enjoyed it just as much this time. A good news story.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
What I'll do is I'll do our consent agenda and then we'll take a break. So if that's okay with members of council, we just have six, yes.
I just, a matter of procedure, we don't have the open forum. I didn't think we took that out of the procedure bylaw.
Yeah.
And we just
sorry.
have an audience, so I just
Yeah,
want to make sure.
and I kind of missed that when I went through the beginning. No, it wasn't removed from our procedure bylaw, was it?
Through your worship, this is a special council agenda and we're just using the special council template.
Oh,
So it was inadvertently not added onto this agenda. If you'd like to have open forum, we can.
well, maybe we should have an open forum. We've got a good audience here. So the open forum is comments. It's a 1 minute apiece. 1 minute apiece on any item on our agenda. Not questions, but comments. Yeah. And yeah, we listen, we don't actually comment. Yes.
Just procedurally again, should we now amend the agenda prior?
We've advertised this as a special meeting.
Oh, so it can't be put on there because it was advertised. Okay, no, procedurally it's not on. So that's why it's not on this agenda. Thank you. So with that, I will do the consent agenda. And I've got a recommendation that the council adopt the recommendations of items 6.1 to 6.5 as set out in the consent agenda dated January 6th, 2025, and any additions thereto with the exception of. Now, being as we just went through the rules, any exception, we can pull it, but then we'll need a written motion after the fact for that. Any to be, yep. It is one you'd like to pull?
Just
A comment or a different direction?
no, we'll just.
Or if it's comment, I don't have to pull it. I only have to pull it if we're gonna have a separate vote on it. So, okay, so any Councillor Tuyu, comments?
For item 6.2, the Good Roads letter, I was hoping to pull it to request that we receive and support.
Okay, what I'll do then is I will take a break and then any items to be pulled, if we can get a motion drafted up and then I'll have it and then we'll be there. And that gives our folks here that came for the presentation time to quietly sneak out. So with that, we'll break for till, well, it says 14. I'm not 2:30. We'll reconvene. All right. Sure. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we're back. If my clerk can confirm, I still have a quorum.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have quorum.
And I believe I had a mover and a seconder to put the items on the floor, did I not? 6.1 to 6.5 is set out. No? I can provide one, but I thought I did.
I don't have the mover and seconder.
Okay, well, I've got the consent. The council adopt the recommendation items 6.1 to 6.5 is set out in the consent agenda dated January 6, 2025, and any additions thereto. Oh, yes, with the exception of, and yes, Councillor, to you have a motion for me that you'd like one pulled.
Yes, I gave it over to the clerks.
Get the clerks to read it.
Go ahead. Yep.
The motion reads that we receive and support the Ontario Good Roads correspondence regarding the establishment of an Ontario Rural Road Safety Program.
So we will pull that one then and then vote on it separately but on the remainder, yes, Councillor.
I just have a question because I wanted to pull that as well, but mine is different. So, because I want a staff report. So I don't know, how do we do it then?
Well, we can have that debate
Just
when that comes on the floor.
And then,
So-
okay, so then mine is 6.5, but I haven't handed it over yet.
Okay, so anyway, I've got 6.1. Let us get a motion to put the consent on the floor. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Fisher. So the consent is on the floor. Any more to be pulled?
Yeah, 6.5, please.
6.5?
Yeah. And I do want the clerk
Well, we'll
to
just
try to
vote
read
for
it.
now.
Okay,
So 6,
all right.
we don't need a vote to pull them. I don't believe so. They're just being pulled for separate motions. If there's no more, any comments on the remainder? Councillor Snutch.
Yes, it's regarding 6.4. I was disappointed to read this because it's a resignation of Paul Grunston, who's absolutely been a solid rock on the part of the Trails Committee. In the 6 years that I've worked with him, we've put in miles and miles of trail in Ramara. We've slowed down a little bit lately due to lack of funding and just some other obstacles. But Paul was just great. Him and Larry, they just weren't. Paul just wasn't a volunteer. He was like a leader of that group with Larry. And I wish him all the best and hope he reconsiders it sometime.
Yeah. And I want to thank him for his service as well. So on the motion, and that is part of the motion, that we'll send him a letter and thank him for his years of service. So on the consent agenda, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of receiving? That is carried. So now we have the two that have been pulled. The first one was 6.2. So we have a motion now.
That we receive and support the Ontario Good Roads correspondence regarding the establishment of an Ontario Rural Road Safety Program.
Okay, it's been moved. Do we have a seconder? Because it needs a mover and a seconder.
And it was seconded by Councillor Fisher.
Moved by Councillor Chu, second by Councillor Fisher. So comments on that motion, Councillor Bell.
Thank you. Yes, I did actually have an opportunity to speak just briefly with infrastructure on this one because I did live in a community where some rural roads were deadly. And so what I do know now from the bit of research that I was able to do, I know that you knew about it, as I said last meeting, because this has been in front of the Warden's Caucus for quite some time. But my understanding as I dug into it is it's a bigger deal than just kind of carry a motion and move on. And so I was hoping that infrastructure could have the opportunity to produce a staff report that spoke more specifically to us about what kind of an implementation we would require in Ramara, what roads of ours would, where do we have areas of concern that, because I think we need that in order to make good budgetary decisions moving forward so that we can find and achieve safety on those dangerous roads. So I would be looking for more than a receiving support. I'd like a staff report.
What's your feeling on that? And not to put you in a spot, Josh, because yes, it says when you read what's asked for here, it'll be targeted and no cost to us. The road is improved. I always get concerned when I see that all of a sudden the road will be found deficient, but no money to fix it. So now we've been told one of our roads is deficient. Now we're left holding the bag. So like you need a little, like, not to put you on the spot, what's your feeling?
No, I'd have to dig into it a little bit more to determine a next step. Dangerous roads, I don't believe we have any. We've had a few concerns come in for some roads. But they are meeting the minimum maintenance standards that are currently set out, and there hasn't been concerns with them. I know we look at some intersections, we have issues with some intersections, stop signs, signals, stuff like that. But generally that relates more to behavioral issues rather than unsafe intersections. So to put me on the spot, I'd like to do a little more research. If council wishes, I can come back with a report, and we can go through some more information at that point in time.
And now I do realize this is something that Roma is working on themselves and they're just looking for endorsement, but I have the same concerns. Counselor Tuyu.
Just if it helps give any more guidance as to the direction I was thinking of, it was from a trails perspective and the idea of having dedicated trails rather than, this concept of our trails following along the roads so that pedestrians and cyclists have a safer way to navigate through the township.
I'm of I'd like to see a report on it myself as well, not to offend the mover of supporting it at this time. So I would prefer to see us referred to a staff report, but we have a motion on the floor right now.
Well,
yes.
Can we ask the person who made the motion if they be happy with the staff report that we can then decide on how moving it forward?
Would you consider, can we remove a mover can remove their motion, can they not?
They can switch to that we receive and request staff for a report. Yes.
Right. Well, that was sort of along the lines of what the letter was, indicating is investigating what sort of the issues were. So absolutely, I'd be in favor of a staff report to see what would be necessary. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll amend that and we'll get it. Second's okay with that too. So we'll just get it reread and then, so we're getting a staff report, correct? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And there was another one pulled 6-5, Councillor Bell.
I didn't hand it over to the clerks yet. Do you want me? Because
yes, please.
I don't know if they can read it. I'll just stand beside them. My
No, you
writing,
gotta move
I
her
can't
aside.
read.
Yeah.
Joe's the seconder, but.
Me. Pre-COVID, believe it or not, the clerks used to sit up here and we used to read it. Go ahead.
It's that a staff report ideally, defines the process for regulations and policies which govern how a legal matter moves from closed session to open session.
I guess my question would be on this specific file, I guess it relates to this one. Because this is an open document, it's a court document, and I'm looking for correction from the CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may ask the question in terms of how that is germane to the item on the agenda. The item on the agenda is about a specific court action.
Right.
What I'm understanding, the motion that has been introduced is a process motion, meaning you're asking, the member of council is asking for more of a procedural request in terms of how legal matters are dealt with. So my question to you, Mr. Mayor, is that germane to the motion or the item before you?
I had a similar question. The item before us is just to receive, it's public information now, it was provided to all the council. So, but certainly that's something we need to discuss at a future committee of the whole.
Yeah, well, I guess because the thing is that today we're going to go into closed on the matter, right? And so what I don't know is, I don't know what aspect is open and what aspect are closed. I don't know what we're doing and I don't know how to know to go when I'm supposed to go into closed. So I'm I don't, if that motion isn't appropriate here, then I don't know, I guess we just received this, but when do I bring that motion? Because we're going into close today. So
we are going into close
question
on this one to get an update on the legal proceedings. We always do that after any case, win, lose or draw, you get a legal update on what the next steps are, appeals or anything like that. So until that decision is made by council, I guess we could have questions on what the ruling means. Could that be public now if anybody had questions?
Well,
the ruling is public. So any questions on the ruling, I think we can take publicly. I'm looking at the lawyer here for guidance. Oh, I'll have to get you to come up to the mic there, John. Options written down.
Thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, it's a public document, but in terms of any answers are being provided to questions made, I think it could compromise legal advice about to be given and closed
Right.
properly under section 239(2)E and 239(2)F of the Act.
So then really you're just looking for questions of clarification would be all that we'd be able to take on this particular thing, or?
Subject to, so not knowing what the questions would be, Your Worship.
Yeah.
But again, we're getting
Until we get an
into,
update because this is a legal matter. Again, the judgment is public. Here it is for everybody's review. We included it on our agenda so that everybody could see this was the court ordered response, but we have to do our due diligence on this case. So
that's correct, Your Worship.
Deputy Mayor,
Can we defer this one item until after our closed session?
would that be proper? For receiving this, well, again, this is a public document. We're just receiving it for the record.
Sure.
Correct.
So any action taken would have to be deferred. So at this point, I would put the original motion, I think needs to go on the floor to receive. So the motion we're going to put on the floor is to receive the item because we can't comment on it until after we have our wrap up of the case.
Can I talk?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I guess the things I don't understand, so we didn't know about the hearing until after the hearing, so therefore we couldn't watch the hearing, whereas there's people here today that did, for example. Like there's just, I don't understand the procedures around the whole thing, which you're right, they don't have to do with the decision itself. But there's going to be a whole bunch of other questions raised. I don't know where we're going. I guess, this in and of itself, like receiving of this, all I'm agreeing to right now is that I see this in front of me and I've read it.
Yes.
Right, that's it.
Yes. That's all it is. So a motion to receive again will be Counselor Goff, second by Counselor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And then again, we got to get an update, see what next steps are. And there are some questions that we have to ask. Reports and committees and boards. So I have one that I'm going to have to start wearing my reading glasses, that we received the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes dated June 21st, 2024 as information. Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Counselor Tuyu. Questions arising from minutes? Not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. I got the library board that we received the library board minutes dated October 21st, 2024 as information. Moved by Counselor Goff, second by Counselor Fisher. Questions arising from the library board, Counselor Bell.
Sorry, I had questions on the previous as well too. I'm sorry, I was trying to read and make sure, because those June 21st minutes contain closed session, and that closed session pertained to facilities tour, and it stayed in closed session. And then we found out after our December or at our December 9 meeting that resulting from, I assume, that facilities tour, because I don't know where else it would have come from, we had to close the Brecken branch of the library. And I am not sure why that was even in closed session. So I guess I don't even know when I'm supposed to bring that. When do I question it? How do I question it? We don't still have that report. So we've done budget. We've allocated finances to, the community center boards and things like that. I don't know anything about the facilities tour. Only one member of council knows anything about it, has any of the training about what was, according to this, the education on AODA standards that must be met by 2025. So I can't make good decisions because I don't have information, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that.
Going to my clerks.
Through your worship, the accessibility tour was in closed session, very similar to our roads tour. It's an education piece, but also we had our consultant travel with us to provide information and gather information herself so she could provide us with detailed recommendations for our facilities. The other reason why it was in closed session is due to safety concerns for the property, for properties. So that's why. And so the public's not invited to attend those meetings for those reasons.
So they're closed meetings because the public aren't welcome to come to that meeting. It's a tour of a facility.
I know, but we don't have the report still. So I don't understand why the report is being held in closed session. There's no security in the municipality where you're talking about whether you've got a push button or the door's wide enough or whatever it happens to be. But what does matter, I mean, and the other thing here is it's talking about identifying different grants. So I don't know how council could possibly make good decisions about meeting AODA compliance when I don't know what needs to be met. I don't know what it costs. I don't know. I haven't been trained on the AODA standards that must be met so that I can actually understand what I'm supposed to be trying to implement and so on. Like, I don't know how to make decisions. And then we gave money to facilities that maybe they can't even be used. I don't know.
I assume that was at our budget time. We get a recommendation of projects that we need to do for the accessibility committee, and that comes to budget. Does it not? And we did approve a budget item for accessibility. So the recommendations come to council, and then we vote on how much we can afford to do at any given time. More comments? Yes.
But we didn't tell us that we were closing the library. That showed up as one line in a report not related to the OSG tour. No warning to council, nothing. And then, and then whereas we would have had from June 21st to January 1st to find an alternative, we didn't. Correct. So I cannot, and I can't find how this meets the exception under security of property. There's no security to saying we are or we're not compliant. So I do not understand why we can't have this report.
I will look to the CEO, Dunn. You're the CEO at the time.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for tossing that grenade to me. My attempt at responding to the query through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bell, threefold. One, I listened to the deputy clerk on the rationale for excluding participation by members of the community in the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee tour. And I take that at the value, Madam Deputy Clerk, that you laid out. And that was a protection of members of the public. And that's one of the reasons why it was enclosed. I think to intersect the report that came subsequent to that Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee is not what's before you right now. What's before you right now is the advisory committee minutes, and there was a closed session item that came subsequent to that regarding the assessment of the facilities. And I believe that there should have been a more timely sharing of that information before it was presented at budget. We talked about that, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Staff acknowledged that that was kind of dropped on council at the last minute, and it should have been provided from an information perspective. That being said, the minutes are what's before you. The fact that there is still an outstanding matter to be shared with council, the report, there was a commitment that that would be shared, as I recall, Deputy Madam Clerk. Was that not the process that was going to be shared subsequent to budget deliberations? I could be incorrect on that, but
I believe it's the report that the councillor is looking for. So
I apologize if I misunderstood. I did not know that that was to be circulated. I can circulate that right after this meeting.
okay, there we are. So this is on the minutes of the advisory meeting. Any other questions from the minutes? So we've already voted to receive, so that one was passed, but I will go on now to the library board again, and I will reread that we received the library board minutes dated October 21st, 2024 as information. I had a mover and a seconder, I believe.
Yes, the library board minutes were moved by Councillor Goff and seconded by Councillor
Yes.
Fisher.
So now questions on the library board minutes? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And I have motion that we receive the library board minutes dated November 21st, 2024 as information. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Tuyu. Questions arising from the minutes? Not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. Have a notice of motion.
Oh, your worship.
Yes.
We'll have to amend the council agenda to include the committee of the whole report dated January 6th.
Oh, I don't have it here.
We'll have, that's what I'm saying, we'll have to add it, please.
Right, yes. I didn't refresh. So yeah, so then that's what we're on now is 7.4, which is the committee of the whole. I'm looking for it here. So do you have a motion for me for section A? Because I don't have it in front of me.
The committee of the whole report, section A dated January 6th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Okay, that was our committee this morning. Everybody has the paper copy of it. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by the deputy mayor. Questions or comments on section A? No, not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. And now I'll have a motion on, I believe, section B.
That section B of committee of the whole report dated January 6th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
And the adoption was the deferral.
That's correct.
Now, I'll get some clarification now on how we're proceeding forward, because I know amendment was going to come. So Madam Clerk, if you can clarify.
That's correct. After discussion with Councillor Goff, we decided that if it's council's wish to proceed with this motion as deferred, he can bring up a new motion in items requiring the immediate attention to present the motion that he's wanting to regarding Simcoe Road, I believe.
And that's because staff are looking for direction in the further motion.
That's correct.
Yeah, because normally we don't throw business on immediate. It's unfinished business that usually comes, but they were looking for direction. So on this one, on the deferral, then I'd need a move by, did I already get it? No, Goff, second by Councillor Fisher. Questions?
Well, I want to make sure this gets resolved today, and I'm afraid it's not going to. But you're going to put your own motion and it isn't mine. I already know that because you want something different than I want. Yeah, I know.
The parking.
So you're opposed to the deferral because we're not rediscussing it. We've already had a discussion. Now it's time to vote either in favor of the deferral or opposed.
I'm putting you on.
Well, we haven't voted on it yet. We're just getting clarification of the rules.
This is the motion.
But this is the amendment that was deferred. So this is what I'm doing.
I'm just gonna. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so in favor of the deferral, all in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Okay. So now we are on to, and again, that'll come up immediate attention, which is I'm looking for where it is on the agenda. That will be item 9, correct?
8. Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess it should be item 10. Or no, it'll be 9.
9.
Okay, so now I have notices of motion. So I have a notice of motion. I assume I'm a mover and a seconder. And I'll get, yes.
You have items that require immediate attention to council?
No, next thing on my agenda is the notice of motion that was moved from this morning. So we have a notice of motion that needs to get read with a mover and a seconder, and then council can decide whether they want to deal with the notice of motion today or deal with it at a future date.
That's not. That's part of it.
I'm just looking at my clerks. I'm on item 8.1.
Are you wanting us to read it?
Well, you have a mover and a seconder, I assume. We're ready to go?
No, we don't have a mover and seconder, unless
Okay,
you
I'll
want
need
to
to
get
move.
carried over from this morning's meeting.
Yes, I need a mover and a seconder for a notice of motion.
So I don't recall who moved it and seconded this morning, so if we could.
You.
I don't know what we're doing. I have no idea what.
I am on the 8.1, which is a notice of motion, but our procedure bylaw requires all notices of motion be moved and second before read.
Okay, I don't even know what motion we're like. I don't understand what we did, right? Because
8.1.
but Joe's saying it's not this motion, which this motion has John Popple's language out of his staff report, and then it
No, we're
relates
on-
to the Brecken ballpark. So I
This is
don't know what we're
the
doing.
Brecken East Train Crossing. Notice of motion. And if I don't, then I don't have a mover and a seconder, then I will move on to,
Hang on. So what you're gonna say, what are we talking about now? We don't have a mover and a seconder to say that the
Brecken
train
East train
station,
crossing.
so we're gonna say that the, so
I'm willing to wait. Why don't we take a 10-minute break here? and we'll get it clarified because I know we have a brand new procedure bylaw and I remember Mr. Daly wrote in that the notices of motion require movers and seconders. It used to be they did. The mover could just read it, but our new procedure bylaw says notices of motion require a mover and a seconder and then they're read. So we will wait for that.
But
And
I know, but it's not a notice of motion. This is what I don't understand what we're doing. It's not a notice of motion.
So we are break till 14. We should be able to wrap this up by 3 o'clock. So we'll break till 3. Yes. Live yet, Sarah? Okay, so we have a notice of motion. It will be read now, but it's not time sensitive. It can be dealt with at the end of the month. There will be another matter that will take up under an immediate attention, which is the petition. We've actually, it got dropped in the file. We haven't received the petition from the folks yet, and I think we need to. It was on the committee of agenda and it should have been on the council agenda. We receive all our deputations and petitions at council meetings. So it's here, but it's in the wrong spot in the agenda, so we'll do it under immediate attention of council later. Okay, so notice of motion. I have a moved by Councillor Bell, I believe, second by Councillor Goff, and staff want to read it, or does the mover wish to read it? Do you have it in front of you?
Read it.
The staff will read it.
Okay, moved by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Goff. Whereas the grade crossing regulations prohibit railway equipment from unnecessary obstructing public grade crossings, including by leaving equipment standing on a crossing surface or activating warning systems for more than 5 minutes while vehicular or pedestrian traffic is waiting to cross. And whereas Section 98 subsection 1 of the regulations requires railway companies and road authorities to collaborate to resolve safety concerns at public grade crossings when a municipality declares by resolution that regular obstruction creates a safety concern. And whereas the Brecon East grade crossing located in the Township of Ramara, County of Simcoe, has been regularly obstructed by railway operations, causing significant safety concerns, including delays to emergency response vehicles, risk to public safety near Brecon Public School and Brecon Ballpark, and traffic congestion that impairs local mobility and access to essential services. And whereas these obstructions contravene the intent of the grade crossing regulations, present an ongoing risk to public safety and community well-being. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Ramara formally declares that the regular obstruction of the Brecon East grade crossing creates a safety concern under Section 98(1) of the grading crossing regulations, and that the Township of Ramara requests collaboration with CN Rail and appropriate federal and provincial agencies to resolve these safety concerns through both short-term and long-term solutions. Short-term, by publishing a schedule and reporting when obstructions will occur to provide timely information to all parties, and long-term by constructing a vehicular bridge over the railway to prevent regular obstructions and ensure public safety and consistent community access. And that the Township of Ramara notifies the Federal Minister of Transport and Provincial Minister of Transportation, CN Rail, and other relevant stakeholders in writing of this resolution, and the council directs staff to initiate this process immediately and work with CN Rail to ensure short-term resolution is in place with the 90-day collaboration and mediation period as stipulated in the grade crossing regulations, and that parties remain in collaboration until long-term solution and timelines are identified to the satisfaction of all parties, and that if no short-term resolution is reached within 90-day period, as stipulated by the grade crossing regulations, the Township of Ramara will notify the Minister of Transport to escalate the matter for further action.
Okay, so that will be presented on, what's the January 27th. So now we're on the items requiring immediate attention of council, and there are two of them. There's one which was the parking report that staff were looking for direction on that was discussed at committee of the whole, and section B earlier today. So we'll table that one, and the other one will be the petition that's on the agenda. It's just, it should have been at the start of the meeting. All right, go ahead, Councillor Goff.
Okay, I have a motion that's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Snutch, is that we prohibit parking on Lake Simcoe for Lake Simcoe recreational access on Simcoe Road between the dates of December 15th and March 31st.
Everybody's heard the motion?
If I could just add to that motion, your worship, and that the regulating a parking bylaw be amended to include Simcoe Road.
All right, we'll have to amend the bylaw, getting the nod from John Popple. Yes.
Yes, that will require an amendment to the schedule for no parking.
We had discussion this morning. Okay, any questions or comments? All in favor? Oh, yes, comments, yes.
Fire had made his position clear twice now of the date, the March 15. And I would probably agree that if we put out confusing dates, then it confuses people. And from the safety aspect, if ice huts are supposed to be off on March 15, if we wanted to, it would make sense to keep that. I know Councillor Goff disagrees, but I just will go through the motion of ensuring that I speak to the safety aspect.
Any comments? Councillor Snutch.
Well, it does snow in late March, so I think we have the same problem. It doesn't matter how thick the ice is. So I will stick with the fact that I seconded to March 31st. There could still be problems.
Is that the end of the fishing season?
The fishing season doesn't really end because there's always some type of fish available.
All right.
It's a good show, it's in season. But what happens is the ice huts have to be off by March 15th overnight. You can still go out there in the day and take a portable ice hut out. Am I correct? Or who knows the correct answer on that? That's correct. Yes.
All right. So that's why the 31st. Okay, any other comments? We've all heard. Yes.
Just one question. When will this be effective?
As soon as the bylaw, it's passed today with the bylaw.
That's correct.
I'll have to get the signage. So we have no parking signs, but they have to be date specific. So I'd say by the end of the month at the latest, hopefully.
All right. Might beat the ice, might not.
Could you possibly use the no parking signs?
Yeah.
Until you get the new ones.
We can put generic ones up. And then we take them down, put the new ones up with the dates.
Yeah. Okay, any other clarification on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? It is carried. Thank you. And the other item requiring immediate attention of council is something we were just clarifying on the break is we do have the petition on our agenda here that was for the rail crossing with, I believe, 800 signatures. And yes, go ahead, Councillor Bell.
884.
884 signatures. And I know it came to council unofficially a couple of times because the folks wanted time to get more names. So I want to officially receive this petition moved by Councillor Snutch. Oh, sorry, Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Bell, to officially receive the petition. Comments?
I would like Councillor Bell to apologize or retract her statement where she said she will just tell her constituents that the members of council do not support safety of the railroad line there, because we're all in favor of it, but she shouldn't have said that.
Well, I've moved, that'll come up under the, that's not my motion on the floor. Right now is my petition to receive it. Comments noted. I think those comments were made actually when we were on break. So they weren't made in the council meeting.
And if we want to start talking apologies, boy, oh boy, do we have a long list.
We're going to stick with our agenda here. So on receiving of the petition, I want to thank all the folks that took the time to sign this. We brought up this issue many, many times, but now it's nice to go in with 884 names as well on a petition to show that this is a serious issue and people are quite frankly fed up. Councillor Bell.
The only comment I would make is that when it was submitted, it was learned that video won't be accepted. So I'm hoping that at the delegation, if somebody has an opportunity to have them on their phone and can maybe share them that way, if there's a way we can do that, just
I'll have to review it first.
Because the videos are really graphically show the emergency vehicles sitting there with flashing lights waiting, and there's two of them. And then the third one is people waving each other through a closed crossing, and they lean out their car windows and they're doing like all this kind of thing, and the crossing's getting blocked, and it's really quite dangerous. So I feel like if we can show the video, it would be useful. But in one case anyway, 2 received, 1 didn't. So I just think it would be good if we we could not just take the petition, but take the videos with us.
What would our procedure? We'd have to at least receive the videos, would we not? So then we could add that to this motion, receive the videos and petition. I'm looking for direction here.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not certain we actually have the videos. It's just a link. Is that
Yeah.
what I'm to understand?
I believe it was 2 videos and then 1 link to the 3rd video because of the kind of video format. So 2 were attached as far as I know. And then they may have all been linked to. So, and if they were, they can be downloaded and you can scan them for safety or whatever you need to do. But they're just videos from residents.
That's something we may just use as part of our presentation. Right now, we'll receive the petition. So all in favor of receiving? Any opposed? None. That is carried. Thank you. So that's items requiring immediate attention. The council now I have bills and bylaws. The bill number 2025-01, 2025-02, and 2025-03. I thought one of them might have been removed. No, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed as bylaw. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by the deputy mayor. Comments? Yes.
No, I don't know if I've updated my agenda right now. So, because it still has the bylaw to regulate and provide for the outdoor special events. So we were pulling that out.
No, it's not here.
Okay,
The ones
okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So it's not on these ones. This one is the cemetery, the borrowing bylaw, and the interim tax rate bylaw. Yes, question.
With the parking bylaw that we have to amend, should that be included here?
No, because we don't have the bylaw. It'll be, we've approved that it be amended, correct? Yeah. Next council. Question, yes.
I do have a question, and I guess it's just, I understand if we have to authorize the borrowing of money, but I just wonder why we didn't know that at budget. Like, cause that was only.
This is one we pass every year. Have we had to actually dip into it? I know for quite a few years we didn't.
It's a requirement from the bank. It doesn't mean I'm going to borrow money. It's just we need that bylaw. Yeah.
So all in favor? Opposed if any, seeing none, that's carried. Look like you were voting, Brittany. Okay, we do have a closed session. Okay, everybody is gone. So does anybody need a break before we're going to close? We just kind of had one, so. Okay, we'll take a quick 2-minute break and then we will come back. And for anybody at home, we are going into closed session at this point. So thank you. Thought if we're gonna take a break, do it first. Yeah. Okay. If you can confirm, Madam Clerk, that I still have a
Thank you, Your Worship. You have quorum.
quorum. That's the word I was looking for. So I have a motion. The council goes into closed session at 3:20 PM to discuss a personnel matter and solicitor client matters in accordance with section 239(2) B and F of the Municipal Act. Moved by Councillor Goff, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. So we'll wait until we stop streaming. Out in the library or library. Well, it is a library out there now, but is the music on in the gallery? Feel like that door latch, you keep pulling it every time. Okay, I got my mics back. If you can confirm I have a quorum, we did lose one counselor that had to leave.
Thank you, your worship. I can confirm we have quorum.
We are minus Counselor Snudge. So I have recommendations that, the first one is that we receive the information regarding the Ramara Road corridor development. Moved by Counselor Goff, second by Counselor Bell, all in favor? That is carried. Secondly, that we receive the information regarding tenancy agreement. And that staff proceed as directed. Moved by Counselor Fisher, second by Counselor Tuyu. All in favor? That is carried. That we receive report BP 6525 and that monitoring continue with regular follow-ups to ensure the owner addresses compliance requirements promptly and that clear and firm deadlines be established for the submission of outstanding documentation to expedite review, and we follow established procedures of compliance is not achieved within a reasonable time frame. Moved by Counselor Goff, second by Counselor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. That with a regular council closed session minutes dated December 9th, 2024 be adopted as presented. Moved by Counselor Bell, second by Counselor Tuyu. All in favor? That is carried. And lastly, that we receive a discussion with respect to Bertram v. Township of the Ramara Court decision for information, and as there proceed as directed, staff proceed as directed. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, second by Counselor Goff. All in favor? That is carried. Did I get them all? That the bylaw 2025-05, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council meeting held January 6th, 2025 be considered read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Moved by Counselor Bell, second by Counselor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried, and that we now adjourn at 5:10 PM until January 27th, 2025 at 7 PM. Moved by Counselor Goff, second by Counselor Fisher. All in favor is carried. Thank you. Robin, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've adjourned the meeting. I just wanted to say, Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you for the opportunity to be able to work with each of you over the last 6 months. I wish you all the best, and I know my colleague will do an amazing job in supporting mayor, deputy, and council lead staff and drive things forward for the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.